Hey everybody, Brogar here. Just wanted to talk to you guys about Apex Legends tactics today. Just going to go over about 5 things or so and just kind of talk a little bit more in depth about how the game operates, how it seems to play out pretty frequently, things you can expect regularly, and how you can, as a player, make some decisions that'll just put you in a better position to win the game and win the fights that are relevant. One of the immediate things I realized in this game is that it is a game of third parties. What is a third party? A third party is when you're in a fight with another team, or 2 teams are in a fight and a new team shows up out of nowhere and kills one of them or kills both of them because they have an advantage. They surprise the teams, they shoot them in the back or whatever, or they're fighting against weaker teams. So it's the team that shows up and starts hitting people who are at a disadvantage. Third partying is super common in this game because of the fact that team fights usually last a while. People can med, people can add shields, people take a lot of bullets in this game in general. So it takes a long time to conclude fights often. So the team that hears the fighting and goes toward the shots and tries to mop up the rest of whoever survived the fight when they're weakened, in a weakened state, or just have already lost members, is at a significant advantage. So you will almost always find yourselves regularly dying to teams that show up late while you're fighting another team. That's going to be really common in this game. So there's a couple of ways that I like to try to get my teams to prevent us from getting third party, but to some degree, at the end of the day, it just depends on if it's bad timing and the people who show up hit their shots, and if you're just caught in the middle, that's a bit of bad luck. But a couple of things you can do to help, try to prevent yourself from being in that situation is, one, when you're in a fight with another team, anticipate the third party. There's always going to be a team running at you, and at the least you should anticipate that there will be. And one of the ways that you help prevent yourselves from getting stuck in the middle is by not overcommitting to the first team and getting entangled with them at close range too early on in the engagement. Try to hit them from mid close range instead of getting into shotgun range, because all of a sudden you might be right next to these guys and get shot in the back, and then the guys that you got close to just finished you off really quickly. You don't want to be in that situation. Try to make sure you have a knock or 2 knocks, whatever, and you really hurt this team that you're in a current engagement with, so that you can clean them up as fast as you can. Once you make that push, you need to kill them as fast as you can, because as soon as another team shows up, as you're making that push close, you're in a really vulnerable position you don't want to get hit in. And that's really my next point in team fights, is when to close the gap on a team you're engaged with and when not to close the gap. I think that's really important for casual players to understand. For really high level players, they're just going to do whatever, and that's fine. It'll work out most of the time for them. But for people who aren't playing this game for 100 hours a week, that want to actually do well, you need to know when you should be close and when you shouldn't be close. When you should be close is when you got a knock, when you've already hit them down and you want to clean them up as quickly as possible, or when you know a team in front of you, you're about to third party and they have knocks and you're just going to clean them up as well. But that's a little bit easier to know than when to pull back. Sometimes pulling back in this game actually puts you in a really, really good position, especially if a team is really aggressive against you, because certain characters like Caustic or Gibraltar work really, really well in defensive positions. And if you do a pull where you defensively retreat and then the enemy team pulls to you, you can anticipate their movements and utilize your abilities a lot better. Cases like this are when you've almost killed one team, but another team's third partying you, and you need to leave now, otherwise you're going to die. So backing up and forcing the third party team into the situation where they either attack the team that's winning the fight or the team that is almost lost the fight is good. If they choose to come at you guys, now now you've isolated them into kind of a team versus team situation, and you can hopefully utilize your more defensive abilities better. situation you'll find yourselves in regularly in this game is you'll have a lot of opportunities to take a team fight or third party a team fight outside of the circle or in a, wherever the team that you see is. I would encourage you to consider your position a little bit more and maybe move to the edge of the circle and force the fight there. When another team has to move to you on the edge or you force them to rotate along the edge away from you, it just gives you an advantage because they're running, they can't met as easily, and you could continue to pressure them and chase them down eventually. So, in short, sometimes prioritizing position, especially in relation to the edge or circle or elevation, is really relevant in giving you easy fights to win and will just give you more wins and kills in general. Another thing that's in relation to the last point is that in all Battle Royale games, their public games and just pubs in general tend to play very similarly in terms of player dispersion and player movement. You can often predict, just by understanding the map, the ways that teams are going to move very regularly. And in this game, it's no different. This map is very, very choke dependent, and what I mean by that is there are a ton of choke points in this game that force player movements into small corridors, and you can anticipate that where teams will be coming from. So it gives you opportunities for ambushes. It gives you opportunities to be a third party or prevent a third party, or understand the potential for a third party showing up. But in relation to this, it's important to understand that according to how the plane dropped, the plane path that occurred in the game, and the current circles that occur in the game, and the choke points that are on the map, what the popular edge of the map is going to be. And what I mean by the popular edge of the map is that often you'll find in public games in VR that if people are on foot, they will drop into the popular spots for the plane path, and then a lot of them will be moving from a similar area on the circle. So you'll often find one edge of the circle is really, really popular and populated with a ton of bad guys, and another side's completely void and empty. Understanding that can give you a good position for third partying without getting pinched between multiple teams. If you know you're on the popular side of the map and you hear all sorts of gunshots going on, it might be good to center up a little bit more and then turn before you fight, instead of fighting on every consecutive edge.
Reloading. Tango killed. Reloading. Kill confirmed.
The fifth point I want to bring up is to understand your characters and how your gameplay and game style should change to accommodate the abilities of your characters. So some characters are highly mobile and will move around really, really fast, like Wraith, and be able to do really cool flanking maneuvers, and that's awesome. But if you're playing with really slow turtley character with like Caustic, it might be a little bit of a contrast for the team dynamic. So my point is to try to play to your character's abilities with the way you're playing the game, the way you're playing gunfights in the game. If you have a defensive team composition, then try to make people pull to you and let their own aggression be their worst enemy. If you have a highly mobile flanking type of team composition, then be a third-party team that comes in on the backs of teams that are currently in a fight, or just be aggressive because you can get out of a third-party situation. Just understand how your composition works and how your character works, and that you're not just gonna play super aggressive and get stuck in the middle of a place if you're a super slow character, or if you're a super fast character, you're not sitting in a house with, trying to gas bomb people with Caustic the whole time, Overall, I think the most important point to understand in this game is that the fights take a little bit of time, and that the chances of third partying are really, really high. Having a game plan and being ready to deal with third parties or not get yourself into situations where you're constantly getting shot in the back is going to be really relevant for you regularly getting to the end game in this. Hope this guide was helpful for you guys in at least one way. Let me know if you guys have any questions below in the comments, or if you want me to cover anything else. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on stream.